What up, everybody? You're now tuned into the true definition of a sports fanatic. I'm your host, Brandon Lampley, back today with another live stream. And, man, we got a good one today for you. Special edition, man. I can't wait to introduce our guest today. But first, we're going to talk some Jags. We're going to talk some kicking game. We're going to talk a little business venture with our guest. And can't forget about my co-host, Mr. Reid, once again in the building. How are you doing today, sir?
Great.
Well, let's not make it longer than it should be. Go ahead and introduce my guest, former all-time points leader for the Jaguars, Pro Bowler, All-Pro, president and CEO of Proform Kicking, Mr. Mike Hollis. How are you today, sir? Welcome to the show.
I'm fabulous. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, I appreciate you giving us a bit of your time. I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate this. We already got people in the car. What's up, Nesco? What it do? Hey, you know what it is today, man. But yeah, so we're not going to hold it up any longer. We're going to go straight into it. Mr. Mike Hollis, I want you to talk about your business venture, and we talk about that, and we go into that, and I may have a question or two for you.
Obviously with my kicking academy, I've been doing that for 17 years now, but that's been something I've been obviously real passionate about, and I don't know if I'll ever stop coaching. I coach with the guy that taught me everything about kicking and punting, so he's kind of the guru behind the form, but I enjoy it. I have a passion for it. A lot of the things that I teach my students are things clearly that I did and used in the NFL. And I like to point out the fact that I'm not a real big guy, and I wasn't really that incredibly athletic as a kid. And I wasn't real strong, but the form and the technique that I was able to somewhat master, and I'll say somewhat master because it is a little challenging to learn and to master, of course, but the closer you get to perfecting the form and the technique, the more kicks you'll make naturally. So even though I wasn't perfect with it and still will never be, there's always the challenges and with regards to the form and technique. But the thing with that is the fact that, it was the technique that was able to, get me to the position I was in the NFL. So me standing at 5'7", 180 pounds, as an average athlete, I should have never played in the NFL, but yet I did, and I did some cool things. So, I've been going on for 17 years and just got involved in a company that's 4 months old, less than 4 months old actually. And it's called Three International. And we opened up in 14 countries on day one. And we're basically in the nutraceuticals, like the health supplemental sort of marketplace. We have 6 different products that we sell, and that's, the products and the nutrients within them are amazing to begin with, but that's really not the best part about our products. The best part about our products is the bioavailability. So it's basically the fancy way of saying the absorption rate into the body's system, where you get natural, products over the market or over the counter market place, and you're kind of your vitamins, your minerals, things like that you take on a daily basis. A lot of those are very standard delivery, which you're only going to get, max maybe 20% of what you're consuming. Only 20% is actually going to be absorbed or used with within your body. Our absorption rate is 90 to 100%. And we have 10 different patented delivery technologies that we use within each of the products themselves. And we're getting great results. And I can't emphasize, we're so young. We're only, shy of 4 months old, and people are giving testimonies on a daily basis about the products and what they're doing for them. So it's a direct sales company, and I'm having an absolute blast. I'm meeting a lot of really cool people, and I'm getting healthy and wealthy at the same time, and it's an amazing feeling.
Well, that's excellent. Let me ask you a question. You said you've been doing kicking camps for 17 years. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What is the age group of the kids? What is your youngest? Like what's the youngest that have been at your camp?
We've had, and to kind of, I guess, get a little bit more specific with what I do. We used to run a lot of camps, summer times, but the technique that I teach is a little different. It needs a little bit more hands-on, and so we kind of transitioned into more private coaching. So, to answer your question, really, we've had kids at the age of 10 before, and our oldest, I would say me, because I played for the Sharks a couple of years ago, or last year, I guess. But I'm not a student; I'm actually a coach. But anyways, yeah, we've had I got a guy from Mexico City who's 43 years old and still trying, and he got into the Arena League a couple of years ago, played for the Orlando Predators a few games a couple of years ago, and then a game with San Antonio team. And so we've got a variety of athletes at a variety of different ages and levels. Anybody can do what we're teaching. There needs some coordination to be involved and some athletic abilities, but that's really my big selling point with my technique, is the fact that I mentioned before, I'm not a real big guy and wasn't incredibly athletic, and I was able to do really cool things at the highest level of football in the world. So what else is it? And by the way, played professional football at the age of 50. So it clearly at that point was not my athletic ability, because it's gone down since I've retired from football. Mm-hmm. Plus the fact that I've had 4 back surgeries. So I'm able to do things that, most people after one surgery would say, I can't even lift a box or, whatever. But I'm still able to do things like that. And, obviously I'm trying to be healthy and stay young and take care of myself. But I think that the technique that I'm teaching and that I used is very instrumental in these guys that hold on to it and learn it and trust it and ultimately use it.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think like concentration. I mean, when you go back to your career, what is the toughest aspect of, okay, I got to make a 50-yard kick and not thinking about it, and you tune out everything and you make the kick? Is that what defines a kicker, the mental toughness of being able to isolate, do what you have to do, to, as some would say, tune out the noise and do what you have to do? Is that a vital role and a strength that you have to have at that position?
Yeah, yes, I deal with the mental side of kicking a little differently than most people would deal with it. My mental approach to kicking is really pretty easy, to be honest with you. It's easy, but it's not easy. It's easy to say and easy to think about, but as far as doing, it's a whole different story. And it takes time and repetition and experience to do that. But my major point with that is the fact that I get so tuned into what I've done on a regular basis in practice. I've kicked a million footballs in my life, of course. And the idea really is to simplify the process. Don't add more to what you think you need on game day, because it's no different. The game day is no different than a day of practice. And if you treat it differently, and if you put, again, kickers have enough pressure on us anyways, but you add more pressure by telling yourself you got to make the kick. You got to make the kick. Obviously it's your job and that's what's expected of you. But if you put too much pressure on yourself and try harder to make that kick, that's when you get yourself into trouble. And my ultimate, summary of my mental approach to kicking is really trusting the mechanics. And I feel sorry for the athletes out there, more specifically, obviously kickers or punters or snappers, even we'll include those. I feel sorry for those guys that have good athletic ability and they're able to do, that skill or, punting, kicking, or snapping pretty good, maybe in practice when they're on their own, or maybe when the pressure's really not that great. And then they get into games and they totally blow it. I feel sorry for those guys. And the reason I feel sorry for them is they haven't understood the concept of relying, trusting, and just focusing on a technique that you've done every single day of your life. Once you find that process, why would you reinvent the wheel, for example? I mean, somebody reinvented it, or we come up with a certain system or a process of kicking a football that works, and you know it works because you've done it day in and day out in practice. Why would you do anything different on game day? And that's really where that separates the kickers that do really well under pressure and the ones that don't are the ones that are able to just, relax and not do anything more or try better, try harder, try anything different, second guess yourself. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why kickers miss kicks, but ultimately it's really, back to your point, John, is the fact that there's a lot of variables, the crowd noise, maybe the weather, or I played in like games where it was incredible. It was so loud it was actually quiet, which is a very bizarre feeling. In Minnesota Vikings, I was playing for the Bills, kicking the game tying field goal, 54 yards at the end of the game, and I could not even comprehend and even explain to you how loud it was in there, because it was so loud it was silent. My ears were ringing so much that I couldn't hear anything, and it's a very bizarre feeling. But that's definitely you'll get your attention. But the more you do it, obviously, the more you're used to it, and the more it just flows. You just I don't want to say you put yourself in autopilot, but you kind of do, in a sense, where you're just kind of in a zone, in a trance where, you do this so often and you trust what you do. That's the biggest key right there, is trusting what you're doing. That once you trust what you're doing and you've been in that situation a million times before, in games and in practice, whatever the case may be, and just to give you an example, in NFL, there's a lot of pressure regardless if it's game or not, because the coaches are always charting. There's always scouts out there watching you, and you're an investment for their team. They're going to make sure that they watch you, monitor you, and make sure that you're still performing at your highest level, even in practices. So that's a big deal to just do the best you can in those situations too. But again, that gives you the experience, and once you're able to trust your mechanics and just rely on your mechanics, there's nothing else really you need to worry about. You've already made the kick before you even kicked it, knowing that you're going to do good mechanics.
Yeah, it sounds like what the old coach told me back in the day. He said, it's not a big game, it's just another game.
Exactly.
So don't get into your because at the point you're talking about, I mean, at that point it's about muscle memory. So don't overdo it, don't overthink it. I'm in the trades now, and they tell me all the time. I look up and look at the electrical work, and we got to do something, and it looks tough. And dude told me, say, hey, it's not rocket science. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've already laid out a plan on what to do. You already have your plan. You already have your routine. Don't go and add to it and blow the kick. Yeah, absolutely. So we got our first question for you. Jakari, what's going on, Jakari? Jakari asked, he said, do you like the McManus upgrade?
Yes, and I think that the team, I kind of experienced this back in 1999. You remember our Jaguars back then? We had a lot of high-profile players that we brought in that year. I believe, just the mindset of where we were at that time is that we had a good team. We had a good reason for getting good players to make a push. To get to that Super Bowl or obviously, to win as many games as possible, obviously. And I think that's kind of where the Jaguars are now. And I think, even when I went to the Giants, that was one of their things. They wanted to solidify their special team. So what they did is they went out and hired a snapper. They went out and hired a punter. They went out and hired a kicker. I was a kicker, of course. Jeff Fiegels was a punter, and Ryan Keel was a snapper. But my point with that is the fact that they they needed to fill a need, and they wanted to get veterans in there that they can rely on. And again, I'm not saying that Riley Patterson wasn't a good kicker. He was a very good kicker. Me, specifically watching him kick and seeing the ball and, how close he's making kicks, and some kicks are a little bit different than others. You might have a hook on one and maybe a draw on the other. And I can even say that I was like that too. There was kicks that I wasn't, consistent with, although I made them. But I just think that there was a little bit of an insecurity with Riley, with the team. And that's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but I, as a kicker and kind of, I guess a professional in the industry, knowing what a good kick looks like, what a consistent kick looks like. I don't think Riley was quite there yet, but again, he could, I've seen guys that have bounced around for a few years in the NFL, and then next thing you know, they're on one team for another 10, 12, 15 years and do very well. So I have no doubts that Riley would be a good kicker later on. And I think he's with the Detroit Lions, back with the Lions again, but he'll be fine. I think he'll do good. But yes, Brandon is brought the Jaguars a sense of security. 10-year veteran, I guess. I think he's what he is, and clearly he's got a very strong leg, and maybe that's something they looked at too with Riley. He wasn't kicking the ball as deep as maybe they thought they needed, and Brandon brings in that security of the veteran that's been there. He's got a Super Bowl ring. The coaches can trust him. They don't have to worry about him. And I think they were a little bit worried about, Riley at times. So I think it's just a security issue for them. And I think that they made a good choice. I mean, Brandon's a great kicker, and 10 years in the league is not real long. I got only 9 in, but I had 4 back surgeries, and I figured it was time to hang him up at that point. But Brandon's a young, healthy guy, and he'll do just fine. So I'm looking forward to watching him kick for the Jaguars for sure.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little more, Jax, but one question that we were going to ask you, how was life transitioning to not playing in the NFL anymore, and what you went through, your process, and how you dealt with it? Because looking at, other former athletes, especially ones who unfortunately have taken themselves out, one of the themes around them is that football was their everything. Football is who they are. They eat, sleep, and breathe football. In the morning, they eat football O's for breakfast. Like, football is who they are. One of the things I loved about Trevor Lawrence when he got drafted is, Trevor basically told people, look, football is what I do. It's not who I am.
Yeah. My transition from the NFL to post NFL, I will say, people, you retired at the age of 32. That must've been great. Well, the money wasn't as good as it is now. And, I didn't make the millions that the quarterbacks do. And even kickers nowadays are making all kinds of money. But, it wasn't something that I retired from. I obviously retired from the game, but I didn't retire from life. So, but my transition was challenging because I didn't do it very good. And I'll be transparent with you. I really I thought I'd play a lot longer than I did, and after my back started having some issues, and I was just fighting through it. I was a little bit stubborn. I'm a man. I'm a little stubborn. I got this. I can take care of this. And the thing is, the reality is that by the time I retired, I thought, I've got time to kind of figure out what I want to do. And then you sit back and you kind of looking around and you're like, okay, what do I want to do? And the proper way, really. And I think the NFL teams are in players kind of clearly know a little bit more about it now, but I think they're preparing guys a lot better than maybe they did back when I played for that post-retirement, because you got to prepare for what you're going to do, during your life, because football, if you think about your life and how long your life you plan on living and how long your life is at this moment or whatever, I'm 50 years old, 51 now. And football was a sliver of my life. If you put that in perspective, when I'm 80, I'm going to say the same thing. I only played 9 years of NFL football of my 80 years on this earth. It's a very small period of time in your life. And that's exactly where Trevor is going with that. I think, because it's, he could play 20 years, who knows, but still 20 years. Yeah. It's just still a portion of your life. You still have a lot more life to live. And so I think that, preparing yourself, and this is obviously advice for everyone else out there who's still playing in the NFL that is thinking about retirement, but prepare for it before you actually, sign over that letter of of resignation, I guess, or your retirement papers. Make sure you have a plan. That's something I didn't do. So again, back to your question, it was a little bit of a struggle, and I'm still an entrepreneur at heart. I own 2 businesses essentially. I just mentioned them both, but that's something that I've kind of done on my own. I mean, this 3 international business is something that was there for me to do, but it's my own business within my own self. But the Kicking Academy, I had to control all the marketing and the web development and all the everything. It was all counting, all that stuff is stuff that I had to do, and I didn't go to school for that. I really wish my mom years ago had said, you should go for a business degree. And I'm like, business, how boring, and at the time I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm like, I don't want to study business. That's boring. Looking back now, I think I probably should have gotten a business degree because that's all I do right now is business, And I was terrible at marketing. I didn't do a very good job in my marketing classes that I took in college. And, I wish I could have done a better job of marketing and so forth for my businesses. But, I do think that it's a matter of really, finding what you love to do and the passion. I relate it to my playing days where I had a passion for kicking a football, and that's what I wanted to do. I enjoyed it. It was something that I really love to do. And I think that anything in life, really, if you find that passion for something, that you're not going to slow down. You're going to do it every single day if you want, if you need to or can. And that's really where it kind of boils down is having, first off, finding the passion for things that you enjoy, and wanting that passion and just kind of following through. And that's what life, in my opinion, is all about. I can't imagine being someone who's worked a job their whole life that they can't stand. They're just doing it for a paycheck, and you're not really gaining much out of your life. And before you know it, you retire and you spend a few years with your family, and then maybe you're not on the earth anymore. It's like I would hate to have that happen to me, where I lived my whole life working for someone else and making someone else real rich, and me just kind of getting by. And then after I retire, a few years later after that, I, in my life and get off the earth or whatever. It's like that's kind of a wasted life, in my opinion. Like, I want to enjoy my life. I want to have fun doing what I'm doing and make money at the same time. And that's what I'm looking for. And that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. The 2 names that come to mind when you mentioned that was Junior Seau and Dave Duerson. Like, it's just an unfortunate thing. Let me get these comments real quick, then we go on to Mr. Reid. Let's see. What does Nesco say? Mr. Hollis, your kick that sent the Jaguars to the first playoff game against Denver was off the upright. Did you know after the kick it was going to hit?
That's a great question. I share this story often because people don't realize, and of course the cameras weren't on me at the time it happened, but I kicked that ball, and immediately, if you've played golf, you hit a good ball, immediately, like, whoa, I hit that good. Before you even look up to see where it's at, you've already got that feeling, man, I crushed that. That was that kick for me in Buffalo. And I hit the ball really good. I'm looking at it. As I look up, it's going right down the middle. Next thing you know, a guy from the Bills comes from the outside. I can't remember who it was, but totally wipes me out. So I'm looking at the ball 1 second. And the next second, I'm looking up at the sky because he's taken my legs out and I've fallen down, right? So the referee didn't throw a flag, which I don't know why, because the guy came extremely late. Maybe it's because I actually made the kick and it would have been irrelevant at the time. But my point is the fact that it was such a bizarre situation, because I kicked the ball. I see it going right down the middle. I get wiped out. I look up, and Brian Barker standing up above me and puts his hand down to help me up. And he says to me, he goes, dude, that went through. Like he was surprised. He had that surprised look on his face. I'm like, what do you mean it went through? He goes, watch the replay. And I was like, okay. So I'm looking up at the Jumbotron and watching the replay. Of course, the wind out of nowhere shoots that ball straight up to the right. It hits the inside of the upright, thank God, and it bounces through. But I had no idea it had done that until I saw it on the replay. I had no clue that ball took that sharp right. And actually, Brian had told me, admitted, he goes after the game in the locker room, he said, that could have been my fault. Like, we could have lost the game. I didn't realize, I forgot really that the wind had kind of changed directions after the first half. It kind of started going the other direction. And he would lean a ball a little bit in certain ways according to the wind, and he forgot to lean it. Normally he'd put it straight up and down for a wind that was going that direction from my left to right. He'd put it straight up and down, but any other wind or any other kick, he would kind of put a little bit of a right lean to the ball. But he put a right lean to the ball, and he thinks that that's maybe a little bit why it did take that sharp right. But I'm telling you, Buffalo's a tough place to play. I played there for a whole year as a Buffalo Bill, and it was windy every single day. We had no breaks. It was awful. Usually on game days too. Like practices were not as bad, but game day for some reason it just was windy. It was just a Buffalo thing, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, that was an amazing experience. So happy I made that kick. Thank God.
Yeah, let's see. Got one last comment. So Jaguar says, "Me and my dad used to kick the football and say what Pat Summerall said on Madden: Hollis steps up to kick."
That's good. I mean, it's funny to be even in those video games. I've had people send me screenshots of me kicking. For their team that they're playing. It's kind of a surreal kind of thing. Of course, the graphics back then were not great, so. They don't look anything like they do now, but it's a pretty cool feeling to have, Pat Summerall, say that kind of stuff, and even Madden and all that. But I couldn't imagine a small town boy from Spokane, Washington, is on these video games. And one other quick story about being from Spokane is the year I went to the Pro Bowl. That's the jersey. Oops, sorry, the other side. That's the jersey that I wore in the Pro Bowl, but. I represented the AFC in the 1998 Pro Bowl. The NFC kicker was Jason Hanson from the Detroit Lions. Jason Hanson and I actually played against each other in high school. So we are both from Spokane, Washington. And he's 2 years older than me, but that was a very cool experience as well to have two kids from a small town. Spokane's not incredibly small, but it is kind of small. Two guys from a small town, Spokane, Washington, to go play in the Pro Bowl at the highest level of football. At that point, if you think about it and break it down, me and Jason at that point were the two top kickers in the world at that point. So very, very cool experience. And I'd never take anything away from that. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah, that's excellent. I wanted to ask you just your thoughts on Doug Peterson. And it seems like Doug really want to have a good relationship, an open, I don't know if it's the right word to say, open communication line, but it looked like he really wants to have the former players to have a part of his program. And I think he had something where the players came out to watch OTA practice. And what's your thoughts on that embracement? And do you feel that it's going to even become even bigger and better? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I 1000% love what he did with inviting all of us out there. We had a lot. We had I think there was 20 something guys that committed. A few of them had to cancel, but we had a lot of guys out there that day for OTAs. And Doug is a very humble guy, very smart guy. He knows what it takes. I mean, he was a quarterback in the NFL, so he understands leadership. He understands the significance and the influential aspects of having leaders. I didn't say a leader. I said leaders on the team. And so back to your point, John, as far as having, the ambassadors out there, we were leaders at one point on teams that were very successful. And obviously, Doug is put other, Trevor Lawrence type guys and on the team now currently in that leadership role. And it's really kind of guys, will step up when they want to be a leader, when they have to be a leader. Obviously, our quarterback is going to be a leader because he's the leader on the offensive side of the ball as well. But, having that camaraderie in the locker room and having the accountability, when you have guys in the locker room that are kind of in a leadership role, we had a bunch, actually. I'll say, obviously Baselli and Jeff Loggeman and Mark Brunell. Those kind of guys. Freddie T stepped up. Jimmy Smith. Those kind of guys were Freddie T after a while. Freddie was a little bit shy at first, but he became a little bit more vocal and more of a team leader towards the end of his career. But I think it's important, incredibly important, because we playing for a guy like Coughlin was difficult because of his rules and his And at the time, you're like, man, this guy is like hard, you know. But now you grow up and you kind of think back, like, yeah, I understand why he did that, you know. And everything kind of starts to make sense the older you get. Believe me, I know that. I dealt with that firsthand. I said some things in the media I shouldn't have said, and I look back now, like, what in the heck was I thinking? Like, I should not have said that in the media. That was stupid for me to do that. But my point of that is that, you know, Tom was very good at finding guys that were team leaders, guys who were humble and team players, guys who were accountable, guys that wanted to win games and weren't in it for just the money. They were team leaders, true team leaders. And they may not have been the most athletic guys that were out there that were available. I don't think Tom cared too much about, well, yes, you got to be an athletic guy, but he wanted everything. He wanted every player on his team that he could have access to and could get on the team itself. He would want them to fill all kinds of categories, you know, the leaders, you know, obviously the athletic abilities, the guys that were humble, that were accountable, that were, you know, have a heart, you know, want to win for the teams, for their community, for the coaches, for the fans, for everybody. And it's not about the paycheck. So I think that Doug it reminds me a lot of Tom in a sense, where he's got that kind of more of a player's coach kind of mentality, but he wants to have those kind of guys on his team, just like Tom did. Some of the previous coaches, I don't know if they were quite there yet with the kind of attitudes of guys that I'm referring to. I think they were just like, you know, Jack Del Rio, maybe looking for just the athletic guys, the most, you know, guys that are most athletic out there. You can have the most athletic guys on your football team, but if that guy or those guys don't really care to play on game day, you're only going to get 50% out of them. They're not going to really show up. Guys that have great athletic ability, maybe not as good as some of the guys I just mentioned, not by name, but just, you know, those type of guys, you know, the athletic ability may not be as good, but they make up for that in their passion for the sport and winning and doing the best, and accountability really boils down to, because going back to that leadership again, in the locker room, you've got the coaches that are making the rules. So Tom Coughlin's going to go down there in the locker room and yell and scream at you and tell you what you're doing wrong. Tom didn't really focus on a lot of the positive things because that's expected. He wanted you to focus on the negative things in a sense where you learn from the negative things and get better and don't repeat the negative things. So the positive things, clearly you're playing in the NFL. That's what you're supposed to do. So the negative things you're not supposed to do. So let's focus on those and fix those. Well, Tom was good at that. But when Tom would leave the locker room, we would have other guys step in and say, you know, hey, you know, guys, you know, what he just said there, I know some of you guys are kind of shaking your head, but just kind of hear him out a little bit, you know. And he would kind of, you know, Jeff Logmans and the Pacellis and those kind of guys would kind of get us on the same page. You know, this is, you know, hey, Tom's saying this, and he, you know, he's not killing us, he's not crushing us, but just hear him out, just understand where he's coming from, what he's trying to portray. You know, maybe we don't see it the way he does. Maybe it comes off a little, you know, dictatorship-ish, if that's a word. You know, and sometimes it did, of course, and maybe a lot of times it did. But you know, we had the leaders in there that kind of took over that and said, "Okay, guys, don't worry about that. Tom, yeah, he's calling the plays, he's calling the shots, but this is our team. We're gonna play. We're gonna play as a team. Tom is our leader. We're gonna win games as a team. You know." Take what he says and run with it, however you want to run with it, but just know that we're here, we're accountable for each other. And I think that, going back to your question, John, is that Doug Peterson is kind of that way. I think he's kind of gotten his guys on the same page and accountable for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's always been the case. Like you mentioned, those guys, they can jump out the gym faster than lightning, stronger than an ox, but on game day, you know, they lackadaisical. They're loafing, as we like to say. They're not putting their all into it. So absolutely. And Tom Coughlin, I'm sure, figured out in his time around football, figured out very fast what anybody who's been around the game knows, is that you're not going to win much with a team full of choir boys. You have to have some dogs. But in order to maintain dogs, you got to have leaders, and you have to be a disciplinarian. And it seems like that's what he was.
Yeah, he was. You know, he was tough, and he kind of, you know, the thing with Tom is he wanted to treat everyone the same. And some guys from other teams that came in there, some veterans, were like, "Whoa, what is this?" And you know, college guys, you understand, because you know they're fresh out of college, and you got to put your foot down and, you know, kind of keep them at bay and keep them from going out and partying all the time, which we understand. That I get that. You put a young bunch of money in a young kid's pocket, you know, and they're going to want to go out and have some fun. I get that. I understand that. But sometimes some of the veterans that came in from other teams, they weren't used to having a coach that wanted to treat everyone the same. They wanted a little bit of a better treatment as veteran. You know, why is coach treating us all like this? We're veterans. We've earned our, you know, our right to, you know, not have to bed check or whatever the case may be. But Tom wasn't like that. And you know, again, looking back at it now, the older you get, the more you realize, I'm like, you know what, that does make a lot of sense, because why would you treat anybody differently on your team? It's a team. We all got to be treated the same, and, you know, and disciplined in the same manner, with regards to, you know, the rules. You know, he made the rules for everybody on the team, not just select few, not just for the rookies and young guys. It was across the board. Didn't matter who you were. You had to follow the rules. And again, it just made you a better person in the long run. Maybe at the time you didn't realize it, but I believe it instilled a lot of discipline in me, accountability. I keep bringing that word up because it's one of the major things that I learned as a player. You know, I'm just a kicker, you know, but I still have to be accountable for my team and the city and the coaches and the organization, everybody, to do what I'm there to do, and anything differently is I'm not doing my job, and I should be, you know, I shouldn't feel too good about, you know, just kind of, you know, loafing, as you say. You know, I can't imagine a kicker loaf, but yeah, I mean, it definitely can be times when I maybe didn't want to, maybe, you know, there are times when I was sick or didn't feel good, like, oh man, I got to go practice today. It sucks. But you know what? You suck it up and you go do it. And I have no regrets. I have none.
You know, the biggest thing now is the stadium, and how critical you think it is to get this stadium renovated.
A lot of people are happy that they'll be sitting in the shade now, but it's going to be a while. That's the drawback. That's the only thing that kind of is a hesitation. Like, you know, it's going to. I mean, looking at those plans, my gosh, that's just such a futuristic looking stadium, and I can tell I can see how it's going to take a couple of years to finish.
Yeah.
But you know, everything, it's like, you know, things like that, you know, there's always that comfort knowing that when it's done, and then we can move on and enjoy the stadium from that point on. But we have had an old stadium. I remember back in the day, I think maybe 2 or 3 years into our existence, we had the oldest stadium in the AFC East, is what we were back then. And I'm like, wow, the oldest stadium in the AFC East, we're only 3 years old, because a bunch of other teams either got new stadiums or renovated theirs. And so obviously when Shad Khan came in, he put the scoreboards and a bunch of other stuff in there. So it's been, you know, renovated and things have kind of improved. But even here in Florida, I think, you know, with the rain, you know, keeping the fans, you know, it's definitely going to help with ticket sales, because I clearly now as a fan, I hear people talk about how, oh man, I'm sitting on that visitor side. I can't get tickets on that side anymore. And on the other side, it's just, there's none available. And they're all talking about where they're going to sit because of the sun and how hot it gets there. And then of course the rain and everything else. So I think it'll be a great addition. Clearly, I think it will be one of the premier, you know, stadiums in the league at the time, when it's finally said and done. But the process of getting it done is going to be a little bit of a challenge, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah, well, I have, I will say not a beef, but I mean, this is my thinking when it comes to that. So you're going to spend $1.4 billion on this renovation. It's going to displace the Jaguars for 2 years. Okay, and they're looking for solutions. You got the Daytona International Speedway. You got the Swamp. You got possibly, which I hope not, because it's a terrible stadium, the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. But this is my thing. A new stadium is running about what? 2 billion, 2.1, 2.2, 2.5, somewhere up in there. And if you do this renovation, okay, 10 years from now, you're probably gonna have to do more renovations, and the price of renovation is going to continue to go up. And so even with you doing the renovation of 1.4, there's always overages. So let's say it comes out to 1.8 billion is what they end up spending because they ran into something, or, you know, whatever. It's just overages and they had to spend more money. that's new stadium money. So why not go ahead and build a new stadium? Because they built on top of the old Gator Bowl. The foundation of that stadium is ancient. It's not nothing new, like you said. So that's my only gripe with it.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that. I really the Giants did that. They built the stadium right next to their stadium and then demolished the one that the old Meadowlands Stadium, right? I believe. And Houston, I believe, did that as well. I don't think they got rid of the Astrodome. It's still there. But they did. They built a new stadium. They didn't try to increase the capacity of the Astrodome. But yeah, I think that maybe just with the area of maybe land, of course, where would you put the stadium? Like, if you're building a new one, where would it be? I think they obviously want everything downtown with all the the sports complex essentially. Mm-hmm. Would you build it in Lot J and then build the other stuff that when you blow up the stadium? Would you build something there? I don't know. That's a great point, Brandon. I think that that's something to think about. But clearly, I think they've already made the decision to move forward with the renovations. But we'll see. It's a great point.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely see. And now one of the other options I've heard is that build a small municipal stadium somewhere in Jacksonville or on the outskirts. There's plenty of land here, largest city land-wise in the United States. There's plenty of room. Build a small 40,000-seat municipal stadium that anybody can use. Well, the high schools, or let's say Reigns and Reebok want to have their annual rivalry game, they can go there. Bishop Kenny Episcopal, if they want to play there, whoever, they can go play there. But have the Jaguars play there for 2 years, and then the stadium belongs to the city.
That's even a better idea, I think. If that's what they do, and I'm talking to people about the Daytona thing or Orlando thing or Gainesville thing. People don't want to travel, on game day. The season ticket sales, I think, would really struggle if you have to move your team for 2 years down to Orlando or Daytona. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking myself, I want to drive all the way down to Daytona, or it's not that far really, but Orlando really for every home game the Jaguars have. It's kind of I would rather stay here. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, but I think that idea of having a stadium that you could build as a temporary stadium for the Jaguars, and maybe do what they do with the Florida Georgia game, build it 40, 50, 60,000, and then add seats temporarily for the Jaguars, and then get rid of them when it comes time to when Jaguars move to the new stadium and it's used for just regular stuff, and get rid of those temporary seats.
My biggest worry would be this: they go play in Gainesville or Daytona somewhere, and they have the best Super Bowl winning season on the road.
Yeah, that would The timing of all that is not great. That happened, yeah, for sure.
Fans done waited too long. They don't,
Good point.
That would be rough. That would definitely be rough.
I like Brandon's idea. Build a municipal stadium, have the high school kids can play in there. You have a stadium for next 30 years that serve the community.
Back in my hometown of Spokane, there is still, I don't know if they call it the Joe Albee Stadium anymore, but that stadium is still there, and that's where most of the high schools actually played their games. We had games on Thursday nights and Friday nights. There was at least 3 games, I think, 2 or 3 games every Thursday night and every Friday night at that. Of course, you're thinking like 12 teams are knocking out all their games. And some, we at my high school we had a stadium field, and it was a nice stadium field, but we still actually played a lot of our games at Joe Albee Stadium, which is all the way downtown Spokane. So it was a good drive for us, but I think that and it's still there. It's a multi-purpose stadium. They do concerts in there. They do soccer, all kinds of stuff. Football, clearly, still to this day, the high schools are still playing in that stadium. So that would be a great idea for Jacksonville to do that.
Yeah, especially have something where you can have the big Saturday night game. The rival games could be played on that special Saturday night. So I like that idea. I worked in New Orleans, and they used to have that. They used to call it Tag Gormley in New Orleans, but they had a municipal stadium, and that's where they played the big Catholic League games at. So
perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, how closely do you follow the team since you've been away from it? I've seen that you post the you got your profile picture, you got your polo on, looking spiffy for the Jaguar ambassadors. So, how closely have you been involved, and how long how in depth have you followed the team over the last like 20 years or so?
Well, gosh, I retired in 2004 officially, and I think Brian Barker was pretty close after me. I think maybe a year or two, 3 years maybe after I retired, he finally retired. Brian was kind of the guy that kind of started the ambassador group, and so he and I were kind of working together and getting this thing kind of started. I was kind of his right hand man. I would kind of help when he needed me to help with it. But we've been doing this ambassador program since I think maybe 2007, somewhere in there, and I think it's important. We as ambassadors are there to kind of support the team. Sign autographs when needed, if needed. A lot of times there's certain events that happen around the city that maybe they're during the middle of the season where the actual current players can't get to, and then maybe there's an event on a day that there's just no way the current players can get to. Jaguars reach out to us, as former guys. And some of us older guys have great stories, about the beginning of the franchise. And I'm telling you, as an ambassador and going to these games as an ambassador, we do sweet visits, and we get on the field and we mingle with some VIPs and kind of have some fun. But we do share some stories, and especially the sweet visits. We go up there and talk to people, and you'd be amazed at some of the questions that people want to know about what was it like back in 1999 or 1996, even when you guys went to the AFC Championship game in the second year of existence. And so we get to share our experiences with these people, and they absolutely love it. So as far as us following the team itself, in all honesty, not until recently with Doug Peterson. Back to your question, John. Up until Doug, we never really were able to be involved with the current guys, and I have to go through clearance even to get to the stadium, into the stadium. I have to sign in. I'm an average person looking. I don't look like a football player, but if I'm Tony DeSalli walking up there, they're not going to, hey, excuse me, sir, who are you? They know me, I promise you that. But that's the thing is that we have to go through a clearance just to get into the stadium that that was our employment for many years. I'm not saying that's a terrible thing. I clearly I'm not. But I think having Doug around and I think he understands the how meaningful it could be to these guys to kind of and before even that OTA practice, we actually were invited to a luncheon. Yeah. And it was specifically for, the ambassadors, guys that were former players, to come and talk to. And these were all rookies. These were all either draft guys or free agents that they picked up from college. All of them were young guys. And we had assigned seats at certain tables. And we sat down and, talked to them about, certain things. And, of course, they were just like, okay, wow. Tell me about how's the city? What's good to do in the city? And they're asking all kinds of questions about Jacksonville. And I was happy to answer them because I've been here for 27 years now, I guess, with the exception of a couple, with the Bills and the Giants. But it was good. I enjoy that kind of stuff because I'm, like I said, I've been around a while, and I'm kind of a wealth of knowledge in a sense where I've experienced Jacksonville for a long time, and I know the city very well. I even sent Brandon McManus a text about that. I said, hey, man, I've been here for 27 years. I know a thing or two, about Jacksonville and certain areas to live and so forth. So I think it's good. And even, obviously with the experience we had as players, I think that's having that knowledge to, tell these young guys and kind of talk to them about what to expect. I mean, I would love to have guys, of course, when I played, even with the Bills and the Giants, they didn't have even then anything like that. And of course, as a Jaguar, we were a brand new team, so clearly we didn't have anybody to come in as former Jaguars because we were the Jaguars. We were the only Jaguars at the time. So I think it's good for guys to get advice and just kind of talk to the players and see how they are.
I'm glad that they reaching out to you guys. When I covered the team for 5 years, I just didn't. My own personal opinion, I never thought that they did enough to reach out to you guys. Even the successful year in 2017, and I guess like you said, Doug understands it because he's a former player. And I think you have to have that, that starts the tradition of the franchise, and you build from there, and you get this great group together, and the younger players learn from you guys. So I'm glad personally, I'm glad to see that, because I think it's long overdue.
Yeah, it's good though. I think it's good to have that camaraderie still, and former guys, and we have experience. We've been there, we've done that, and it's been, well, other than a couple years ago in 2017, it's been a while since we've gone to the AFC Championship game, and so we had that experience of getting there, and we knew what it took to get there, and it's good to share stories with those guys for sure.
Where do you see this league heading at, man? Do you see it a league of parity? I mean, do you see are you amazed about just how the talent has developed with these younger players? I mean, what is your scope of where we at right now with the NFL?
Well, everything is evolving. Guys are getting faster, stronger, quicker, bigger, hitting harder. Our equipment is evolving as well because of all of that I just mentioned. When guys are bigger, stronger, faster, hitting harder, you got to have some equipment that's going to take care of that. And all the injuries and concussions and things like that. It's a dangerous game in a sense. From concussions and the CTE issues and all that stuff now and all that, but. Tom Coughlin always used to say, football is not a contact sport; it's a collision sport, which it is. But yeah, and there are a lot of, and even if you look at guys that are training athletes to get to the NFL level, the kind of knowledge nowadays and the nutrition and the type of workouts are like I said, everything is evolving. So yes, there is parity. They're going to be like there's going to be and again, you get, say if you had every single athlete on every single NFL team was identical, there still will be winners and losers because of this. How are these guys playing that day? Like I said, are they money guys? Are they just complacent? Do they just like, I got my paycheck, I'm good? Like I said, there a lot of athletic guys out there, and even if they are all equal, there's still going to be some discrepancies because of that mental approach and just different things that can happen. So football at this level in the NFL. And you think about certain things that happen every year, there's always something that some team has figured out that has done better than other teams. And, every year it's different, but, even as far as cheating, Deflategate, you look at the Patriots, and how many times they've been kind of caught cheating, I guess, or whatever the case may be. But everyone is looking for an edge. And that really, and the reason is because of the athletic ability at this level. Everyone, they make that movie Any Given Sunday. They talk about that. It's for a reason. Any team can win at this level on any given Sunday.
Yeah.
It's just all the athletes are very, very good and mentally strong for the most part, and it all kind of boils down to the coach and the organization and the leadership, really, and how they're calling the plays and how they're reacting to plays. And so there's always going to be something that's going to make a team better than the rest. And, it's just a matter of finding what that secret potion is at the time. And again, because of film and because teams are able to watch other teams and every year believe me, Tom Coughlin, that's all he did was watch film. Like and study books and read, and listen to audios of motivational speakers. That's all he did. But going back to the film work, that you look at the reason why every team has access to film from the year before or the week before, whatever. So they're always watching and I remember that play. That was a good play. Like we should do that, and they're learning from other plays and so forth. So there's always going to be a sense of evolving, and it's up to the coaches and organizations to figure out where and how they evolve. And only the smartest guys are going to probably be the most successful teams around as far as coaches, and the better organizations will be the best because of that athletic ability. So equal now.
Yeah, absolutely. I got like you got some questions piling up here, but it's amazing that with all of the innovation in equipment, the TV deals, the ticket sales, the coaching, the offensive innovation, the defensive, adjustments and ingenuity, everything that the game is made up, everything that's been innovated about it comes down to two things. No matter who you are, no matter what team, no matter good, bad, and different, doesn't matter. It comes down to blocking and tackling at the end of the day. And that will never change.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Yep. It's all about the execution, as Tom Coughlin would say.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Harrison says the GOAT, Big Mike. You got some fans in here. And Ernesto, he say, Mr. Hollis, what's your feelings about the Hall of Fame? And me personally believe you are on the Jaguar, one of the Jaguar greats, and deserve to be in the Hall of Fame conversation along with Fred Taylor for sure. Fred and Jimmy, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, thank you. I didn't play really that long enough. Maybe, I don't know. I as far as a Hall of Fame, I don't know if I'm quite there. I mean, there's guys that are a lot more qualified than me. I got guys like John Carney that played for 22 years, and Jason Hanson played for 21 years for the one team he played for, the Detroit Lions. There's guys that have played a lot longer than me and have scored a heck of a lot more points than me. Adam Vinatieri probably the next one in, I'm sure. And even guys like Gary Anderson. You got Morton Anderson in there, but Gary Anderson was somebody that he was 100% one year, except for the one kick that he missed is probably the most important kick of the year, clearly. But that guy was good. Like, I'm telling you, he was a small guy like me, and he was just real consistent. The guy didn't do anything different on a kick. It was like a machine. But I appreciate the comment, but I don't know if I'm not that caliber of a guy. I wasn't that impactful in the NFL as some of these other guys.
For certain. Okay. Well, Harrison says, "What's your favorite restaurant in Jacksonville?"
Oh man, I'm a big sushi guy, so I don't care anywhere that has good sushi. Salt Life here in the beaches, I love. I always go there. I don't know. 11 South is a really good restaurant. Chart House downtown is a good one. River Post has got some great food. All kinds of places around. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely good. So last question, say, what was your personal greatest moment in a Jags uniform?
Wow, that's very, very broad. I've got a lot of greatest moments, but I think it's accumulation of the Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos victories back to back in 1996. I think just those 2 weeks, I'm going to say. It wasn't a game. It wasn't a specific moment. I'm just going to say those 2 weeks were my proudest times of wearing the Jaguar jersey because of what we did as a team. We were not expected to win either one of those games. We go into Buffalo and it's a crowdy, rowdy environment. Guys have wearing no shirts and it's like 10 degrees and just crazy fans and and I had that kick and fortunately. It did hit the upright and went in, but moving on from that game, and of course, I think that was Jim Kelly's last game ever. Maybe Thurman Thomas too. I don't remember if he actually played after that game or not, but I know Jim Kelly. I think Chris Hudson took him out late in the game, and I think he was done, if I remember right. But go fast forwarding to the next week. I had family and I had friends and so forth that went to that game in Denver. And they were telling me after the game that they had, these people had shirts that were like Super Bowl bound, and they were selling these T-shirts because everyone expected the Broncos to be in the Super Bowl that year. And we go in there and knock them off. And I remember a funny story going into, I'm in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, of all places, on Lake Coeur d'Alene, and I'm at this restaurant kind of area in one of the bays in Coeur d'Alene. It's kind of a popular place, and in comes walking John Elway, and his girlfriend or whoever at the time. And, he sits down, and I'm like, oh, there's John, and I got up and I said, I walked over to him. I said, hey, John, he's kind of like, it's hard to talk to because he's trying to, not deal with people. And I get that. But once I told him who I was, he's like, oh, he looks at his girlfriend. He says, hey, babe, hey, he was a guy playing on the Jaguar team that knocked us out of the playoffs that one. You remember that? I'm like, oh, man, sorry. I really, I'm just doing my job, And he's like, I'm just messing with you, man. It's all good. And but it's good to see him and meet people like that. It's and kind of reminisce. I know he wasn't real happy, but I was to mention that story. But going back to the question, I think just having that one kick in Buffalo and then winning those games, and then if I add more to that, it's actually flying back from Denver that night at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, when we did that flyover over the stadium. I literally am getting goosebumps just every time I talk about that. It was an amazing experience. Cappy gets on and says, "Hey guys, we've been cleared to do a flyover the stadium. I think you're look down, and guys on the left hand side, look out your window as we bank left. You'll look down at the stadium and see all the people that are at the stadium waiting for your arrival." And that's obviously when we got off the airplane and we went directly to the stadium, and they had everything set up, and Tony spoke, and Dave Wydell, Jacksonville, do you believe in miracles? Remember that speech, and that was an amazing night. I'll never forget that night. That was something. It's something that's it was so real. It wasn't. It was something that doesn't happen every day, clearly, but it's just an amazing experience. And thank the city of Jacksonville for having that opportunity for us to come home to such an amazing crowd of fanatical Jaguar fans.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Yes, they do. You believe? You had something, Mr. Reid?
Oh no, I mean, I always think that's the thing that get. I know they get noticed, but sometimes I think they don't get noticed for the amount of time they waited, their patience. And I just always had a feel for the fans here that. You go nationally, I think they get criticized, but I mean, I think the fans in Jacksonville has endured so much, and I think if you're gonna build a new stadium, I agree with Brandon. Build the best you can build. Don't renovate. Build the best, but whatever the plans is, just always keep the fans in mind, and I think they're doing a better job with that. But what do you share about the fans here in Jacksonville? You've been here 27 years. You know what they've been through. What's your feeling about the fans here in Jacksonville and how they embrace you?
Well, me personally, I mean, the people that know who I am, and believe me, there's a lot of new people that have come to Jacksonville, and we're doing autographs to the games as ambassadors, and they have to read the name tag to see who you are, and they don't know who you are because they're new to Jacksonville, but. The fan, then the next person in line is like, oh, I've been a season ticket holder since day one. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you, you're awesome, because we have gone through a lot of rough seasons where we were not good as a football team, and so for the loyal fans, clearly the ones that stuck around, and there are the fans out there that maybe a fair weather fan or whatever, but I think Jacksonville's done a great job of supporting the team through thick and thin, and clearly, every year is different. We bring in good, talented athletes and good, talented coaches and good, talented administration people. And I think that, Shad Khan's done a great job of getting a group of people here that are professionals. And obviously with one goal in mind is to be the best team in the NFL and have great, economy. And as far as, the stadium and the pools and just the things like that, as far as the game day experience, that's one thing that I know Shad Khan was a real big fan of is having that game day experience. So in the event that we're not winning games, or maybe that we lose a game or two, you're still having a good time at the stadium, obviously. Mm-hmm. But for the fans that have stuck with us for forever, thank you so much. Clearly, because it's. We've had those years that have not been great, but I'm telling you, there's some loyal fans here, and they are diehard Jaguar fans. Matter of fact, I got a person in my 3 international business recently, and I didn't even realize this until he told me. He's like, because he gave me a cell number and it was a 208 area code. I said, Dale, you live in Idaho? And he said, yeah. I said, man, I thought you lived here in Jacksonville because you're here all the time watching the games, and I see you a lot, at certain, events. And he was at the draft party a couple years ago in Vegas, and Dale lives in southern Idaho. I said, Dale, do you realize I grew up in basically northern Idaho? Right next to Idaho is Washington State. I grew up in Spokane, Washington, around the east side of the border there of Washington, Idaho. And he didn't even know that, but it's amazing to see that the people who are fans from different parts of the country that come here for games and so forth. And those people are amazing too, because they're loyal, and especially going overseas and watching us play in London. I mean, that's an amazing thing for us as fans. And we have a winning organization. Clearly now we're on the rise, and things are looking good. And I think it's going to get better. I think we're going to start winning some games. And I mean, like we did last year. We won a lot of games last year. So I think this is just an extension of last year, this next season, hopefully, and keep our guys healthy, and we'll win some more games for the fans for sure.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Oh, yes, sir, man. Hey, and shout out to Dale for setting this up. He made this possible. Hey, I had the same thing with Dale. I called Dale's, sent me his number, and I seen the 208, and I was like, 208, man, because he got all the pictures here in Jacksonville. He got pictures with Devin Lloyd and Jimmy Smith and Fred Taylor and Marcus Stroud. And I'm thinking he's a draft party. Yeah. So I was like, when I saw that, I was like, man, so he's a diehard for real, man. So shout out to Dale. And I see he's not on here right now. He's gonna catch the replay, but I'm sure because when he's here, he's commenting up a storm. So man, shout out to Dale. Yeah. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I knew I had
one question I wanted to. Yeah. You got to mess with. Yeah. Definitely got to mess with Dale. But one question I had: have you noticed the national media and their bias towards Jacksonville? Because initially I didn't feed into it for a long time because I'm just like, it's whatever, especially after the Super Bowl where they took that crap on Jacksonville about, how the Super Bowl went here. And I'm just like, put it out of my mind. But over the years, I'm like, man, there's really been a national media bias. Like it's like a rite of passage to crap on Jacksonville. And what drove it home for me was when the Jets beat the Rams to give Jacksonville the number 1 pick for the 2021 draft. And when I saw that, and they said basically Trevor Lawrence is coming to Jacksonville after they won. It's no doubt about it. They're taking Trevor Lawrence. They're not taking anybody else. As soon as it became clear that Trevor Lawrence was going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar, all of a sudden, he's not a generational talent no more. Zach Wilson is better. This player is better. I don't know. He may be good. He may not be. And all of a sudden, the tune on him changed when they found out he was going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. So right then, I was like, man, they really have something against Jacksonville.
Well, we are the second smallest market in the NFL, second to Green Bay. So there's that, but you look back at even the years that we went to the 2 AFC Championship games, 96 and 99, we still didn't get much respect. And I think it just has to do with thinking about, if you guys have ever watched the story or even seen the work that was done to get the franchise here and how long it took and all the hoops that they jumped through and everything that they did to earn the franchise here in Jacksonville was a real feat. They went through a lot of struggles to get the franchise here in Jacksonville, and clearly back then it wasn't much of a city as it is compared to now. Clearly, but I don't know. We've always been kind of underdogs. It's just kind of it has to do, in my opinion, about the market. We're not a big city. We don't have a lot of, we're not in LA. We don't have 2 teams. We don't have, celebrities and things like that running around the streets. And, It is what it is. We're but why, you look at Green Bay. Green Bay's not like that either. Why is Green Bay such a hot team? Right. But they've been around a while, so maybe give it some time. Who knows? But we've never been really respected in a sense from the media. Even what's his face years ago from the Denver Post or whatever, he calling us the Jaguars.
Yeah.
but it's just a matter of us. How about we just win a Super Bowl and see what happens?
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to push us over the top, and we'll finally start earning some respect.
Yes. I think was that Woody Page that called them the Jaguars.
Yes.
Woody Page. I used to watch him all the time. Yeah.
Hassan
Carter say, give the fans free water and ice cream for September games to sweeten the deal.
and a covered stadium.
Yeah. But go ahead, Mr. Reid.
Oh no, I don't have no comment to that, man.
Oh, okay. But yeah, and I get it, as far as small market, but I mean, even with that, I don't dwell on it. Fans shouldn't dwell on it. The team shouldn't dwell on it. As far as national respect, so what? All that matters is W's. That's it. Win. If you win, they can't deny you. It is what it is. It doesn't matter. Go out and win, and they can't deny you. They have to give you a seat at the table.
Yeah, go win the Super Bowl. That'll change. That's all it needs. Win big, and that'll change perception.
Yeah, I think that those many years, I'll say, I don't even know how many years it was, where we were, under 500, not winning games. We were kind of the epitome of poor NFL football is what they were saying. That clearly that didn't add any credibility to our city or our team. But now, things are changing. And again, I think, proving the fact that if we win a Super Bowl, we're I guess we're a legit team at that point. Maybe that's what obviously needs to happen. But yeah, you're right, John. Just win games and earn the respect. Tom Coughlin always said, we have to respect. We have to respect all. Fear none is what he always said.
Mm-hmm.
But we always have to earn our respect. The people and teams and cities even and even media. We have to earn the respect from them by performing well, winning championship games and ultimately Super Bowl. So maybe that'll change.
So, well, what is your expectation and / prediction for the Jaguars next season?
Yeah, I've been the worst. I'm horrible at it. I've been the worst predictor ever. I suck at gambling, so I don't have anything. My biggest thing is if you have the talented guys on our team playing, with their hearts out every single game, clearly, playing smart, limiting mistakes, but ultimately staying healthy. That has been a problem for us for a long time, I think, and really every NFL team for the most part. But there's been some times and years that we've had, high number of injured reserve athletes on our team, and that's a huge deal. You get your investments of players that you put your money into and have them hurt and off the field, not playing games. It's a struggle for teams to win games and so forth. But I can't, obviously I can't predict, how we're going to do. Clearly, I think we're going to be in the playoffs again. That's as far as I'll go with that. That's my prediction. We'll be in the playoffs. But however we get there. We might be, 10-6 or 7 or whatever the season would be now. Yeah, 17 games.
10-7.
We might be that. We might be, 8-9. Who knows? But there's been crazier things. I think wasn't there last year? Like one of the divisions was a really poor division, and an 8-9 team made it in the playoffs or something. It was just really bizarre. But it's just win games. Just win some games. Just win games. Have fun. A lot of good things will happen when we start winning a lot of games and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you brought up injuries, and it's no coincidence that the best 2 seasons they've had in the last decade, which is 2017 and 2022, they had the least amount of injuries that they've had in that span. Like 2017 team, I think, Telvin Smith missed a couple of games. He's the only one that missed multiple games. Everybody else, for the most part, was incredibly healthy the whole year. Even this past season, you had a few guys go down. You had Cam Robinson go down. But for the most part, especially on defense, nobody really missed significant time outside of, I think, Andre Cisco missed a game or two. Other than that, man, they stayed relatively healthy. So I think that is big. And I think Doug Peterson sees that. That's why I give him that extra time off.
Yeah, that's an important point.
Yeah, what worked last year work again. I would have not changed nothing either.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mr. Reid, did you have anything else for him?
No, I just want to congratulate you coming on with us. I know we bombarded you with a whole lot of questions, but we definitely appreciate you taking. I know you have a busy schedule. I mean, and I definitely appreciated you having that time to share with us, because it was tremendous to have you on here and get your insight on Jags and NFL and a whole lot of other things involving sports. And I'm very appreciative for you to come on our show.
My pleasure.
Oh yeah, and I loved every minute of this. I'm a historian of the game. I always tell the story about my mom getting the NFL Network when I was about 14, and watching Steve Sable and his dad and NFL films. And I watched all of it. I'm quoting stats from times I wasn't alive, and people are like, how do you know that? I was watching NFL films because I'm a historian.
Oh yeah, it's and even as a player, just you get kind of starstruck at times when you watch. Like when I met Morton Anderson for the first time, I'm like, I remember seeing him on the cover of Sports Illustrated when I was like 16 years old or whatever, and he's kind of an idol of mine, and just to be in the presence of those guys that you've seen on TV and on newspapers and on magazines and stuff. It's kind of a surreal thing. And but again, in all honesty, they're just normal people. We're all just like that. I mean, it's just their job. It's just what they've chosen to do, and they've got good at something, and having the ability to have TV networks show you doing what you're doing exposes you to the world in a sense. Obviously, that they enjoy people watch you doing what you're doing, and they enjoy that, and it's entertainment. And so they remember you for that. And obviously the ones that do well at their jobs in this environment, when you're exposed on TV and newspapers and magazines and all that, the ones that do well at their job are the ones that get a lot of attention, notoriety. The ones that don't do well or get in trouble clearly are the ones that are obviously frowned upon. But it is a cool experience. I talked to Norm Johnson today. For anybody who knows who Norm Johnson is. He was a kicker in the NFL a long time. Played for the Seattle Seahawks. I grew up in Spokane, Washington. I was a Seahawks fan. I saw Norm Johnson play as a kid, and watched. And he literally calls me up today out of the blue. I'm just like, "Wow, Norm, what's going on, buddy?" I had a good conversation with him. It was like 45 minutes long, but just catching up on some good stuff. So a lot of good guys out there, and then again, we're just normal people that love to share our stories, and I'm very passionate about people and their health and their fitness and their wellness and just enjoying life and passion. Life is too short to be negative about stuff, and I always find I'm a very optimistic person, so I always want to find the positive in things and just kind of shoot for the stars and have fun doing it.
Yes,
Yes, indeed. So before we sign off, where can people get information if they want to purchase products through the company, or if they're interested in the business side? And how can they find the Proform Kicking Academy?
Proform is easy. All my social media is all Proform Kicking. Even the website is proformkicking.com. You can just Google my name. That's probably the first thing that'll pop up is my Kicking Academy. It's been here for 17 years. I hope it is the first thing that pops up. And then 3 International. I've got a website out there. It's called 3nutraceuticals.com. If you go to 3nutraceuticals.com, that site will give you kind of the basic foundation of what it is that we're doing. And from there, you can hit the contact page and contact me directly, and then I can take it from there.
All right. Thank you, sir. And I will share screen very quickly. And this is the website. And anybody who's interested, Go check it out. And we appreciate Mr. Mike Hollis for joining us today. And this is awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is a great opportunity. And hey, it's funny is Dale was like, you know Mike Hollis. I was like, yes, come on, Dale. Yes, of course. No, Mike Hollis. Yes, absolutely. He said, man, I always say, yeah. He said, I know him personally. I said, hey, you can set something up, please do so. I appreciate it. Say, next comment, Mike Hollis, he gave you a Duval. He said, thank you for every kick you made. You are part of the reason I'm a proud Jaguar. Win or lose, you, sir, are great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It was awesome to be a Jaguar, and I still am, and I still enjoy it. It's a very, very cool thing to be a part of such an amazing organization, still to this day.
Yes, sir. Duval.
All right. Duval, man. But hey, once again, I appreciate you. Anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to go over before we signed off?
Nah, I think I've covered good stuff.
All right, we covered good stuff. We talked some football. We talked some business. We had a good time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hey, we will be back with more live streams. Of course, me and Mr. Reid. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Follow Mr. Reid on Twitter. You can follow Mike Hollis. He's on every platform. I think I got you on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, everything. So follow Mike Hollis, of course, too. And we will be back. And until next time. Peace out, y'all.
See ya.
See ya.